Hello everyone, I'm Jenny with GoBox Art Crate, and today we're going to learn this really adorable fox wooden star ornament. It's really big, it's about 10 inches wide and 10 inches tall. So nice and big, and we have lots of room to do a fun fox face and some fun winter trees in the background. And I'm going to guide you through it all. So this video was made for Fossil Distance Learning Program. But I always open it up for everyone on our YouTube channel, so feel free to follow along. The kit is available on gobox.com if you want to buy a kit with the paint and the star and all the materials you need to do it. But let's go ahead and talk about what colors we're using, the brushes, and all that stuff. So you will want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, paper towel or paint rag to dry them on. And then with the kit, you get the 10 pack of brushes for if you're doing the Fossil Distance Learning Program option, and you would have gotten all your little paint colors that come in these cute little bottles. We don't need a ton of paint, so you'll have some paint left over, and you can paint the backside too if you want. You just keep in mind there's a little hanger here, so you can definitely do that. Just be aware of that hanger. I'm going to tuck it behind as I'm working, so otherwise I know it's going to drag in these little globs of paint. Colors, we have black and white. We don't use a lot of black, just primarily for the tips of the ears and the eye and nose. White and dark blue, red and yellow. So the three primary colors are yellow, red, and blue, and then black and white. And we can make all kinds of colors with these. So let's go ahead and get started. I actually want to kind of sketch out the fox to start. We're going to sketch it out in white so that it's easy to cover up when we come in and need to paint the background around it, and if you need to make any corrections. So let's pick up one of your small pointy brushes. Let's see, this one has a number 5 on it. That's the one I'm going to use. You want to dip it in your water cup and brush it around on the bottom real gently, because you don't want to fray these bristles. And what that's going to do is it's going to help dissolve the coating that comes on the brush to keep it nice and pointy. And then dry it off, and then I'm going to use my fingers and just smooth it into a little point again. So let's dip the brush in the white, and let's start talking about this fox. So we're just seeing a nice big profile view of the fox, and I actually put it together with a series of shapes to make it easy. So we're going to do a circle, a smaller circle, couple triangles, and then we're going to connect the small and the larger circle together. And it's not hard to do, so let's just get to it. So we want to drop under here about maybe ½ an inch or so. You can make a mark if you want. Hopefully this will show up. I'm going to just, yeah, it's showing up, okay. And I'm going to make a nice big like ping pong ball size or golf ball size circle. Could it be, actually it could be even larger, a little bit bigger than a golf ball. Let's go with that size. We can always make this bigger. This is why we're doing it in white to start. Okay, not quite a tennis ball. Not quite as big as a tennis ball, but not quite as small as a golf ball either. And the cool thing is we can just keep making it bigger and bigger if needed. You just want to make sure that you have room for the ears though. So let's draw an ear just to make sure that we have room. There it goes, right to the top. Just a little triangle, headed kind of facing a little angled towards the back. And we'll draw the other ear in a minute. I want to get the face down first. Okay, so heading out this way, wherever you put your second circle is where your fox is going to be looking. So I have him looking like he's looking at a snowflake that's landing on the nose. So kind of just straight out from here, maybe a little up. And they have a long pointy snout. You can make it even longer if you want, but this little ball needs to be really small, this little circle. Because their snout goes down to a tiny little point. That's so they can stick their nose in little foxholes and find little creatures. Okay, so let's go ahead and connect the top of this to here. So then we have a little sloping forehead that goes out to the snout. And now this one, we're going to connect down to here. There we go. It was easy. Look at that. We've already got an animal. This could become a horse. It could become just a normal dog, or you can, I mean, there's this shape. If you draw a lot, you can do this shape all the time and draw lots of different creatures from this shape. All right, let's make the front of the throat. It's going to come down here and curve a little bit and come off the bottom of the star. And now the back of the head just under the ear, it's going to curve off this way. And now we've just got one last ear to draw. So this triangle is on the other side of the head, so it's going to be a little bit smaller than this one because we're only seeing part of it. And think of it like a little mountain, a little triangular mountain back here. There we go. We've got just enough room. Okay, look at that. We've already got our fox drawn out. And like I said, this could become so many different animals. It very easily could become a deer if you made a little bit longer ears and some antlers, or left them off and it could have shed its antlers. A horse, dog. The snout's a little too pointy for a cat. But you could make a shorter one. It could be a cat. So that's pretty fun to look at and know that you could do all kinds of animals based on those two circles, triangle, couple connecting lines. Let's take our biggest brush. I'm going to wash this one off that I was just using. And we want to make a light blue, sky blue color for the background. So it's going to take white and blue, but more white than blue. So I'll scrape off some white, then scrape off a little blue, and just mix the two together until you get a blue you like. Yours doesn't have to be as light as mine. Yours could be a darker blue, or it could be even lighter blue. If you wanted to put a tiny bit of black in there, it can look like it has kind of a gray blue going on, like a gray blue sky. But what we want to do is we want to just start at the top here. And work our way down. So you want to leave your fox the wood color. So just bring your brush, you can use the thin edge of this brush. See that skinny little edge there that's nice and fine? You can come right up to your fox without painting over it. If you do accidentally paint over a few spots on your fox, it's not a big deal. It's real easy. Everything that we do is going to get painted over, so it's an easy fix. And it's not even what I would consider a mistake. It's just something that happens during painting. If you ever feel like you need to pick up one of the smaller brushes to get around some of the areas, like the little ears, feel free to do that and just have this big one handy for doing the larger areas. Once we get this background painted, you'll really be able to see the fox shape. It could also be a wolf, a coyote. One of my dogs looks like a little fox. It's a breed called Shiba Inu, and they're from Japan, and they really look so much like foxes. They kind of act like them too. The sly fox. He's definitely very sly. So again, if you accidentally get a little blue background on your fox face, not a big deal. You can see it gets completely painted over. If you need to mix more blue paint, you can. Just try to make it as close as you can to your original color. It's really easy to run out of paint. A lot of times I don't mix quite enough and I have to make more. So these stars are really fun. They're a lightweight birch wood. And so they're light enough that you could hang it on a Christmas tree if you wanted to. If you celebrate Christmas and decorate and all that. You could hang it on a window by using one of those little suction cup hooks, because it's already got the twine hook or hanger. So it's all it takes is something to hang it on. Another thing that I've done with things like this is put it on my fireplace mantle and just lean it against the wall to keep it upright. They do make cute decorations. Okay, just keep working until you have that background finished. Some of you might go fast, some might be slower. It really doesn't matter. Just work away till you have it done. And then in a few minutes, we're going to start talking about this fox. Okay. I washed and dried my brush off. You just keep finishing your background. I know some of you may be done already, but everybody goes at their own pace. I've done a ton of painting, so I tend to have to remind myself to slow down. How about that? But luckily the background is pretty simple to paint because we're just filling in negative space. And it's always something you can go back to. If you feel like, oh, I missed that corner, but they moved on, then you can always go back and paint that corner that you missed later. It's pretty easy. You already know you just need a light blue color. All right, I'm going to talk about foxes. So yes, foxes are really cute. They have very pointy nose. I see a lot of winter decorations with foxes on them, and I just think they're so cute. I see a lot of very whimsical foxes. I see some realistic foxes, but most of the time I feel like they're pretty cartoony and whimsical for decorations. So I made this fox very whimsical and cartoon-like, and I even put a little blush spot, like he's out in the cold, and you know, in the painting world there are no rules. You can make your own rules. So in my painting world, my fox is gonna blush. And yours can too if you want. Okay, let's mix the proper colors we need. So foxes are kind of an orangey red, and that's exactly what I mixed here. I made kind of a pumpkin orange for the base, and then later on I came in with lighter fur that's kind of more of a yellowy orange. So let's pick out a brush. How about one of these medium-sized ones? If you're doing the fossil, distance learning program, you can pick up number 4. That's the one I like to use. But you've also got this other one that's number 6. Either one would work fine. And it's going to take more yellow than red. So I'll just scrape off a little red and plop it in here in half the yellow. Keep your little bottle of yellow paint handy though. You might need to add more if needed. But this is a nice foxy color. Kind of carrot colored. That works. That works for making a fox. Carrot. And like I said, later on we'll mix a lighter yellow orange color and put some fur on this. And later on we're also going to paint the inner ear black, and we do some white fur around the ear. But for now, let's just paint the things solid orange. So our ear, you can use a smaller brush if needed, like one of these pointy ones, if you feel like, you know, you can trace better and reach around the different areas better. I tend to like to use just the thin edge of this brush to get around, but let's paint one of the ears in first. And you can bring it down a little bit. And this fox will probably need 2 coats of paint. So at first we're going to see through, we'll probably see our white outlines, and it won't look as great until we get that second coat on. Let's go ahead and trace the back of the neck here. Let's get this other little triangular ear. Again, if you need to use one of the small round brushes, please feel free to do so. They're there for your use. You've got 10 brushes of all different sizes, so feel free to use whichever ones feel more comfortable in your hands. And if you have a little hair sticking off, you can always use scissors and trim it. Every once in a while, the brushes will have a rogue bristle sticking up. I'm going to come down across the top of the snout here and the forehead. And then we're going to start making the patterns of fur the way they go. So they have white on their lower jaw, comes up around their cheek, and then down the front of their chest. Their eyes are actually in the orange part. I see a lot of drawings and illustrations where the eyes are in the white part, and it looks really cute, but I've looked at a lot of foxes in nature, and their eyes seem to be on the orange part. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to do the top of the snout, and then right here, do a little curve, because that's where this part of the cheek is going to go. And then this is going to come down like this. Let's just fill in this part. I'm starting to run out of orange already. That's okay. I know I'm doing a second coat. So even if this one if I have to remix color, even if it's not exactly the same, it'll be fine. As long as your second coat is all one color. And then I'm just going to come down the front of the chest. So I leave a little strip for the white. So I'm not really, I guess I'm not coming down the front of the chest, just coming around the side of the fox here. Let's see, I might have just enough paint to get the first coat on without having to mix more orange. I think I do. I think I'm going to make it. Just barely. There we go. So paint on the wood dries really fast, and maybe you've already noticed that it dries super duper fast, and I'm sure like me, you'll be able to see through and see the circle outline that we did in the very beginning, but we'll cover that up with another coat of paint. So right now, we want to let that part dry. We don't want to paint this part yet because we would end up with a really pale orange if the two mix together. We want that to be pretty pure white. Let's talk about the trees. So the trees I kept very simple. They're just tall tree trunks with some branches at the very top. And that having the branches at the very top makes the trees look taller. Like a person looking at this would be like, oh, those are tall trees. And the branches are, like I said, they're at the very top, and they all go upward. So there's no branches that really go out or down. They all kind of go angled out, but going upward. So let's go ahead and get those trees going. I'm going to use this same brush I was just using here, that flat brush. But if you feel better using one of the small pointy brushes to draw trees, then definitely do it. I'm going to be using the thin edge of the brush. So if you see, there's the wide side right here, but if you look at the end, you've got a nice thin side, and that works really good for doing trees. I'm going to start over here because as I work my way this way, then this will be dry by the time I get over here, or mostly dry, so I'm not like dragging orange paint into my trees. So these trees are probably a type of like alder or birch. Go ahead and dip your brush in the white paint. Just pick up a little. You can see I don't have a ton of paint on my brush. And right over here, I'm just going to go from the bottom to the top, or from the top to the bottom, it doesn't matter. Let's draw all the tree trunks first. So we're just going to have a bunch of white stripes. And then we'll go back and add the branches. So these can be spaced apart how you like them. Like they can be really close together, they can be far apart. You can have a combination of some being close together and some being far apart. That's always good if you're wanting more of a natural looking forest where the trees have just sort of grown on their own without being planted equal distance apart. So again, feel free to use one of the smaller brushes if this little flat one doesn't work right for you. And now this is where it's going to get a little tricky because we're going to run into the fox face, and we don't want to draw through the fox face. We want to draw, so we stop and then start again. I'll do one right here. So it's going to come down, and right here I'm going to stop. And then I just kind of float my brush over till I'm lined up and just finish up the rest of the tree trunk. And make it wider, because at first it ends up real skinny. And that's the thing too, you can make your tree trunks different widths. Like maybe this is a bigger, more mature tree, and so it's going to be a little thicker, not so skinny as some of these others. And don't worry if you accidentally paint into your fox face, which I did a little bit, because we're going to do that second coat of orange. We'll be able to touch that up real easy. Okay, let's see. I'll do one right here, kind of off center. And one once I get to that face, I'm going to stop. And just kind of float my brush so I know where to line it up and finish up the rest of that tree, the bottom part. And yes, I got a little in the nose, totally fine. And here's where you can see I have a definite pattern. Like each one of these is pretty close to the same distance in between. So I'm going to throw that off and make this look a little more like a natural woods by putting one real close to this one. Keep in mind, you can totally overlap the bottom edge of the fox because we're painting white in there anyways. So white on top of white is not going to be a problem. And you know, I'm just going to do one last one over here. There we go. Let's go ahead, before we do anything else, I've already got white on this brush. Let's get a base coat of the white fox fur. So come right out to the front of the mouth here. We're going to end up doing a second coat that overlaps some of the orange paint later, but let's get this first coat on. And I'm just kind of doing little short choppy brush strokes to sort of simulate the texture of fur. It'd be funny to see a fox with long hair. But we know they mostly have pretty short fur. I suppose in the winter they get a little bit longer coat, just like dogs, or thicker coat at least. Because they are a type of dog. They're just a little more cat-like. And in fact, my dog that I said is like a fox is very cat-like. He feels like a cross between a cat and a dog. Okay, there, I've got my base coat of white. Second coat will be very helpful for that. Let's wash this brush. Let's build some branches. We want to use a small brush for this. So pick one of your little round ones. I grabbed out of your pack, if you have the kit, you want to get brush number 2 probably, or one of those small ones like that. And let's look at the branches again. Remember, they go off this, kind of come off the side, but they're way up high, and they're going to just go upward. So let's start with the easy one. Let's start with this one over here. Take your brush, dip it in the water first, and just kind of really lightly brush it across the bottom of the cup, just to dissolve the coating that comes on the paint bristles. Just the coating keeps them nice and stiff for shipping. Go ahead and use your fingers and get that nice and pointy. Dip the tip of the bristles in the white. You can see I picked up very little paint because we don't need a ton. And I'm just going to do a little branch that goes off and up and out off the side here. That was easy. That was so easy. And I'll do the same here. There's always going to go up and outward and off the top of the star. And you can even, like, let's do one here. I'll branch off of a branch because that's what happens. That's how we get such big full trees. You get one branch that grows and then you'll have another branch that comes off of that. And that's what we want to just keep doing. You go up and off the top of the star. You might run out of paint like I just did and have to go back and redip your brush. And then you can always branch off of those. It's kind of what nature does, doesn't it? It knows what it's doing. And some of your trees maybe just have a couple branches. Some maybe have more than a couple. Felt like I needed a little more paint there. Oh, looks like I accidentally made a branch here, so there we go. That's what I call a happy little accident, just like Bob Ross does. He's right when he says happy little accidents. There's a lot of those in painting, where it's like your brush decides what's going to happen, and sometimes it's a good decision. Sometimes not. But I try to think positive about them. Again, if you ever feel like your tree, as it dries, has gotten a little too transparent, you can always paint a little white anywhere where it's too transparent and see-through. There. Done with the branches. Look at that, how well it's coming together. Now we definitely are ready to get that second coat of orange on the fox. So I'm gonna go back to one of my little flat brushes, kind of the medium-sized one. This is number 4. I'm gonna mix more orange, this color. I'll try to match it, but if it's not 100% match, it's not a big deal because we're going over the whole thing. So it will all be the same color. And I'm gonna make a little more paint color than I did last time because I feel like I ran out way too soon. Yeah, that's pretty close, maybe a tiny bit lighter, but as it dries, it actually dries darker, so it'll probably be fine. I'm gonna start with the ear. Get a nice thick coat of paint on there. Work on this ear too. Again, if you need to use a small brush to get in and around these little parts, please do that. And just take your time. We've got plenty of time. This painting comes together really fast, so you can take your time and just get it the way you want it to be. So the last class that I taught with these stars was, it's actually the higher grades. It was the 4th through 8th grade group. And we did this one. That was really fun. But I was telling them in the video that when I first was designing this star project, I was thinking about different ideas of what I could do. And I like to take and turn the star into something different. Like here we turned it into a fox scene, and the other one it's a snowman scene. But one of my favorite things to do is to turn the star into a little like Santa or gnome, and that was really fun. But it ended up being pretty involved just with all the decoration and fine decorations, the real small decorations. So I thought, well, let's just do a fox and a snowman, and I think that it was a good choice. But just keep in mind, if you ever like have a star that you can paint, it doesn't have to be a star. You can look at it and be like, that looks like a deer, or whatever you want to do. Whatever you see there, that's art. It's coming out. Your artistic brain is telling you. So if, when you get this done and it dries, if you can still see any of your white original outlines, you can give it a third coat. Most likely, they're going to be very, very, not very noticeable. And especially when we come back in with the little furry texture in the lighter yellow color, you probably won't even see them after that. So keep that in mind. I see I missed a spot. Let me get a second coat back here. And I have barely any paint left. Very good. Coming together for sure. Just finish up that part you're working on, and we'll move back to the woods and get some snowfall going on. This little white snowflake we do later because we want to get the black nose on there first, because sometimes it overlaps the nose a bit, which is super cute, but you would want to have the nose on there first before you overlap anything. Now the snowflakes are super easy. You're just going to pick up one of your smallest brushes. Look at the handles. We want to look at for the smallest little dotted handle. You know how it comes to a little point. That's what you want to look for. And we're going to stamp that in the white paint and just stamp little dots all over wherever you want snow to be. Don't forget in between the ears and some of these little areas. And every couple stars. I do this technique with stars too. Every couple snowflakes, you maybe will have to redip your brush in the paint. And if they're too small, or you want a combination of sizes, you could use one of your bigger ones and stamp some bigger, use one of your bigger brushes and stamp some larger snowflakes on there. You can make a blizzard, or you can have a light snowfall. This part's pretty fun. One thing I try to remind people is when the snow falls, each little snowflake is not equal distance apart, but when we paint, we tend to make a pattern where everything's spaced apart evenly. So I try to go in and put some little snowflakes real close together in some areas. So I'm not making a pattern. We don't want polka dot sky. We want snowflake sky. There we go. So make sure you wipe the handle of your brush off so the paint doesn't dry on there. Because if the paint dries on there, then the next time you go to use it, it's not so fine and pointy and you've got a big dried blob of paint there. Just checking the drying. We'll get to where we're doing the second coat of white here in a minute, but I want to make sure that this orange dries first so that we're not dragging peachy color into the white. So finish up your snowflakes. And then I'm going to have us put some black on the ears. So foxes have black tipped ears. It goes just a little small triangle at the top and it comes down the back of the ear a little bit. This one, we're just kind of seeing the back side of this ear that's over on the other side of his head. This one we have the inner ear, so we're going to do a little black triangle inside. So I'll guide you through all of that. But you'll want to pick one of your small pointy brushes. I just grabbed the number 2/0 and dip it in your, pick up just a little bit of black paint. Let's go ahead and come across, just do a little half triangle here. I need to dip that in water. And go ahead and come down the back of the ear right about to there. And you can add as much black tipping on the top as you want. And on this side, we're going to see the back side. See how I'm kind of shading that in? And then we want to draw the inside part of the ear. So I'm just going to draw a little black triangle and close it off down here, and then you can fill that in, and we'll put some white fur that kind of overlaps that part later on. When you're done with that, you can wash your brush. Dry it off. And let's get a second coat of white on here. So make sure this is dry right along the edge where the white comes to it. It dries really fast, so it won't take long. And let's pick out maybe one of our little flat brushes. I grabbed my number 4. Just a small flat brush, that's all you want. You could even use one of your round ones. Just a small brush, we'll leave it at that. And then let's get a second coat of white, starting right here at where the mouth is and coming down. Again, I'm just doing short, choppy brush strokes. Now right here, as I'm getting right here towards, I'm moving towards the front of the throat here, this needs to be wet when we do the little spot of blush. So we'll finish this part in a minute, but right now I want you to take your brush that has white on it, grab a tiny bit of red, put it down on your palette and make pink by mixing white and red. Now you can make a darker pink or a light pink, it doesn't matter. But while this is still wet, I'm gonna just dab my brush around here, and I might need to add a little more red to mine. Now this is optional, you don't have to put this on your fox, you can leave it just white. But I just sort of been dabbing it into a little circle. And because this white paint is so wet, the underneath part that we just painted, it's turning this circle even lighter pink than what's mixed on here. Which is totally fine, you just get it to the level you want it to be. And you can wash your brush and you can dry it off and you can kind of smudge out the edges a little bit if needed. It's cute. And then you can finish your second coat of white all the way down the front of the chest and throat. You want to make sure you have a clean brush so that you're not pulling pink down in there. There we go. This right here, where the chest here is kind of meeting the background, you can make it kind of furry. They probably have a nice little fur coat that's nice and thick, keeping them so warm. And now we're gonna do something kind of cool that I do with a lot of animal paintings. You wanna clean that brush off real good, and we're gonna dry it off and set it aside. So if you'll notice on this one, I have these little furry lines where, because the white fur kind of grows over the edge of the orange fur, so it overlaps the orange just a little bit. And that's just extra credit. We could leave it just as it is and it would be totally fine, but I just went a little extra, I guess. You want to pick up one of your tiny brushes and dip it in the white paint. Let's just do this part real quick. So you're just flicking little hair-like brush strokes into the orange. So you see that? They're kind of brushed down, like if you ever brushed your pet. Their hair grows kind of downward in this direction. And you can make it as fluffy as you want. And now that you've got this little brush in hand, if you wanted to do some of that little fluff over here into the background side, you can make even longer hair. I pulled up some pictures on my computer of foxes, and in the winter they do get pretty long hair through here. They get nice and shaggy, so you can totally do that. I kept it smooth on this one, but you can change it up as much as you want, and he can be a nice warm wintry fox. But what we did here, we definitely want to do along here as well. So I'm brushing as I go around the face. I'm just kind of brushing into that orange just a little bit, just to make it look fluffy at the edges. And as I go around this curve, same thing. As I make it around this curve, this hair is gonna start going kind of downward, the way these do. Down and out, I guess. Downward and outward. And like I said, you can make it as fluffy as you want. The fluffier, the cuter, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm liking that. The chin hair under the jaw is relatively short, so unless you want to put fluff down there, you can. I'm gonna wash my brush. And let's get some white fluff around the ear so it kind of grows over into the black inner ear. You want to use one of your small brushes again. I guess I didn't really need to wash that brush. Habit, I guess. So I'm going to start right here on the inner lower part, and I'm going to brush little fluffs of white in this inner ear that slightly overlaps this black triangle. And it can come along here too, along the bottom. This probably helps keep their ears warm. When you're done with that, you can wash your brush. Dry it off real good. Make sure you get this metal part dry. It's probably something you may have noticed already, that sometimes a drop of water will be hanging out there and it will gradually roll down and splat onto your project. So that's just a habit I've gotten into. When I dry my brush, I also dry this metal part. That's where those rogue drops of water like to hang out. So now we're gonna do the lighter orange fluff on the body. So you can see it there. It's not super noticeable, but it does add some texture. And what we wanna do is we wanna make a yellow orange. So this is more of a reddish orange, like a carrot orange. So this time we wanna use more yellow and just a tiny bit of red. And I'll hold my brush up to it and just make sure that it's a different color than the base, than the body is. And yes, it is. It's a lighter color. I'm going to start from the nose and work my way this way with short little brush strokes, kind of mimicking fur. You can experiment with what it looks like if you add more yellow to this color. It'll just stand out a little more. And I'm going to come over the top of the forehead here and work my way down. You can add a drop of water to your paint if that's helpful, because what happens, you'll notice your brush starts feeling like it's really dragging and running out of paint. But when you add a bit of water to that paint, you don't want it super watery, you just want a little more fluid. But adding that little bit of water helps extend the life of the paint on your brush. And I just find I can do a better job when I'm working quick like that with the fluid paint on the brush. He's fluffy and fancy, isn't he? Or she. There you go. So I'll hold this up so you can kind of see the texture I was talking about. And now we'll start getting the face on. I want to start actually with the black nose so that it can dry. We can do the rest of the face, and then we can come back and make the little snowflake that's touching the nose. So finish up what you're doing. And it looks like time-wise we're doing good. I'll be able to show you how to do a more fancy snowflake if you want. I'm gonna go ahead and take one of my little brushes now, and I will paint the little black round nose. See there, it's just a little black circle. And just gonna put it right here on the end. It kind of overlaps into the white and the orange. Like so. I'll fill that in. Now for drawing the eye, I'm just gonna use very light pressure, so I'm not going to push very hard with my brush. I actually don't like this brush too much. I'm going to switch to a different one. So you don't need a lot of paint on the end of your brush because we're just doing a little tiny circle. So right about here, right about where this rounds out, that's where I like to put the eye. If your white area is really big and you just have a tiny strip of orange, you can put the eye in the white part if you want. It does look really cute, I will say. So I'm going to put mine right about here. Just a little circle. It can be either bigger or smaller than the nose, or the same size. Fill that in. You can paint little eyelashes if you want. They probably do have cute fluffy eyelashes. I'm looking. They have really like cat eyes. Yeah, they have like golden eyes with a little pupil. Ours is just going to be cute little black eye. Okay, so while that dries, I'm going to show you how to do some really simple but more dramatic snowflakes than this. You can, I kept this very simple, just not knowing how much time we would have, but it looks like we're doing great time-wise. You can do multiple painted, drawn snowflakes throughout this picture, and it would look really cute. So keep that in mind. I'm going to move this aside, and I'm going to show you my favorite snowflakes to paint. I'll use blue just so you can see what I'm doing. So the way I learned, or kind of taught myself how to do snowflakes, there's 6 sides to a snowflake. So the best way to do something with 6 sides is you do a straight line, and then you paint an X through that straight line. I try to make all these really close to the same length. So there I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. And then from there, it's kind of like free game. You can do whatever you want because we know there's no 2 snowflakes alike, so you can come up with infinite number of designs. One of my favorite things to do is just do a little straight short line to cap off each of these, and then do little dots. And I could even make it even more dressy. I could do a bigger circle in the middle. I could do some more of these little lines through these main lines, and look at that, now it's more decorative. Another one of my favorites to do is, so I'll do my line with the X through it. Just always remember, you start with that base. Line with the X through it. I like to do the ones where you do kind of a V shape at the end of each line. And I could go in and do another one just below that. The more of these little things you add, the more decorative your snowflake can become, and it's so easy. The hardest part is just kind of getting used to how much pressure you use. So you don't want to push hard with your brush at all. You just want to use the very tip of the bristles, and you'll have better luck that way. I mean, there's so much things, so many different things you can do. So there's a couple very easy snowflakes. If you want to do the one that was on this, I did just this. I did the line with the X through it, and I kept it simple. I just did dots at the end, but look at how fancy you can make them if you want to. Okay, I'm gonna wash my brush I was just working with, and this, let's see, yeah, that's dry. Yours might be dry too. Hopefully, just check it. Just maybe tap your finger to it and see if it's dry, because you don't want a gray snowflake. If you end up with a gray snowflake, just let it dry and go back over it with white. So I'm gonna take my brush, this is probably my littlest brush, and I'm going to put a tiny bit of white at the tip of the bristles. Remember, you don't have to push hard at all when you're drawing these. So I'm going to do my straight line with the X. This is kind of getting lost in the tree a little. And then I'm just going to bling it out, make it decorative as much as I can with such a tiny snowflake. And let's say we've got a snowflake falling here. They would land on the fox's body or go past it where we could see it against the fur. Here's a simple one. I can leave it like that, or I can go further. More decorative. Dots. Dots are so simple, and they add such a nice touch, but I'm just using very little pressure. That's cute. I like that. I'll maybe do one more, but you can load your whole project up with these if you really like doing them. But now you know how to paint snowflakes. You start with that base blueprint, the line with the X through it, and you just decorate them as much as you want, whatever decorations you want. There we go. I really like that a lot. See that? The comparison. I want to add a highlight to the nose and a highlight to the eyes in white. The nose is just very simple. So we know their animals' noses are wet and shiny most of the time. I do just a little dot right here on the very end of the black nose. And then in the eye, I'll do a dot up here, close to the front of the forehead, and then one down here at an angle away from it. I like to have two. This one maybe is a little bigger. And then if you want, before you completely finish up, you can use the handle of your brush and you can stamp some snowflakes over your fox, because they wouldn't necessarily be avoiding him unless he was under an umbrella or a tree. This one, looks like I forgot to do that or just didn't think about it. But yeah, there you go. How fun. Let it dry. It'll probably take about 10 to 15 minutes to completely dry, depending how thick your paint is. And then when you are completely done, you can sign the back. You can write like the year, your initials, your name, whatever. Or if you want to paint the back with another design, you can. You can do, let's see, if you're feeling more advanced, you can do this one. It's in the other video. And you have all the colors you need to do it. So I hope you guys had fun. I actually really love the way this one turned out. I think I'm going to hang it on my Christmas tree when we're all done. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday break and enjoy yourself, having some time off from school, and play hard and just have a lot of fun, do lots of art. So we will see you later. Thanks again. Bye-bye.